Welcome back. With this video, you are going to work on the fetching user profile. So the API for user profile created is done, and that is what we did in the previous video. So in this video, you are going to fetch the user and get a details and then fill up this field for the user. Right. So let's work on the actions and reduces first. This is what you are working on, right? So quickly, let's go back to code, VS Code, to get it done. So let's go to SRC, Redux, slices, and we're inside user slices. So here we have action for login, logout, register, like that. So there's no action for fetching user profile. So we can copy one of these actions here. Any of them is okay. Copy that. Twice. Let's copy the registration one. Right, copy that, and then let's come back here and paste it and change the name to profile, and then the name gonna be user profile. So we can move all these actions to one file, and then we can require it, right? So user profile here, the action type, and for this one we are not going to send any payload, right? But let's get one that has authentication, the token, right? So that it make our life easier. For which one? Login, no. Let's find one that has the token. Okay, we cannot get the token here. So okay, correct. So here, let's go back to one of the actions because you've done this one. I want to grab the token from the request. Okay, the config. So here we can copy this one, right? Let me check this one from token. Okay, so for here we're going to get the user from the token from the header, and this is how we do it, right? We've done this one many times. So we get the user from store, and in there we have the token, and then you pass the token as a header, right? So here let's go on. So for the endpoint, it's not register, right? But instead use profile, API/profile, and you have the base URL as API, so there's no need, right? And it is get request, right? And for this, there is no payload to be sent, right? And get takes two arguments, that is the API URL and the config. Okay, so now this is done. For the user profile is done, and for the update, right? Let's also work on the update profile, right? Update profile. So let's copy this one like that, and then let's copy it here for update. The things is the only thing gonna be the URL, and then the action type gonna be update URL, and then the HTTP method, right? But as to here, you need the token. So if you check the Postman for updating, let me save it. If you see that we pass in email, first name and last name, right? So the same thing, we're going to do it here. So this time around, this is update. Okay, we need the config. This time around, you're going to receive a payload, right? And here now is put, right? And remember, this one needs the ID, right? That is going to be sent. So if you check this, the put, there's no ID. ID is from you get an ID from the controller. So there's no ID to be passed on here. So all what we need is that for update, change this one to update profile action. Sorry, I'm not feeling good. Okay, so we have the update profile and we have the URL. So for this one, I'm going to send a payload, right? And a payload, you can receive it in so many ways. We can just put in here payload here, payload, and you're good to go. Or we can receive the payload as an object like this, and here we need the field to update, right? So first of all, we need first name. Okay, and the first name can be found in the payload dot first name, right? The way we are did for the back end. And the last name gonna be last name, also payload dot last name, and then email, and email dot where is it? Email is equal to payload dot email. Okay, that is it. So we are done with that, and when you finish, that is. So let's handle the reducer. So let's call this one user profile action. Okay, so let's handle this one, the actions for. So let's copy one of these actions here, this one. Okay, so not this one. Let's copy the register one. So we have pending, fulfilled, and reject. Alright, so let's copy that, and then let's come up after the logout. Okay, before logout or after logout, it's okay. And then let's paste it here, and then let's change this one to profile. Okay, cool. So let's change the action type, action here, to fetch. So user profile action. Okay, there we go. I've changed all the action for the pending, fulfilled, and reject. So on pending, it's loading through and there is no error, correct? And then for the success state, we have off here. Let's call this one profile, just profile. Okay, we get the, so let's call this one up error not, and then use the server error. Okay, so here gonna be loading. Let's change this one to loading. All right, loading and up error and server error. Okay, the same thing, this one to loading. So I'm changing all the user loading and user up error to up error and server error, like that, and change this one to server error. Okay, so on pending state, loading is true. Okay, loading is true, there's no up error, there's no server error. And on fulfilled, we have the data back, and we have loading false, up error for undefined, and states and server error undefined. And for reject, loading false, and we get back the error and get back the server error as well. So let's copy this one for the update. Change this one to update. And difference here gonna be the update profile, update profile action. And here everything remains the same. The difference is the here. Let me call this one user update. Okay, and that is all what we need. We are done with the actions and the reducers. So let's go back to refresh it. Okay, let me put it back here. Let's go back to the profile page of our application and dispatch the action. So let me open the Redux Dev extension tool here to have a bigger view. So let me put it here. Okay, so let's go to the user profile component where we are rendering the user profile component. So under client, SRC, sorry, pages and users and profile. So here now, first time of coming back to user profile. So don't worry about the syntax or the structure of the HTML. So the first one here is the image, as you see over here, right? And then records created, and then we have the edit profile button here. And the next section here, we're going to put our graph here. So for now, let's fetch the user profile, and definitely let's pull out the things we need. Use effects, and we also need use dispatch. Okay, use dispatch. My auto import doesn't work, so let's do it manually. Use dispatch from Redux. We need use dispatch and use selector. And use selector, All right, use selector. Okay, so let's create some space here. Let's create some instance of the use dispatch, right? Until this point, I believe you know the flow now, so that's why I'm moving fast here. And let's grab the use selector, right? For the use selector, we have users, and we can have our profile. So let's dispatch the action use effect here and pass in the array of dependencies dispatch. Okay, so let's bring in user profile action. User profile action. Oh, the auto import didn't work. So let's go back to Redux, users, slices, users, and save it again. And now I'm gonna have the user profile action. Okay, it works. So let me dispatch this one here inside my use effect and call dispatch, and then pass in my fetch user action as that. So check it out. So let's refresh it and let's see. You see profile for field, and now on the users we have a profile field, and now we have expenses and income. That is crazy. We got it. So now let's quickly destructure the profile, right? And the loading and app error. So on the state here, const, let's destructure the state. Alright, so here we need the loading, we need app error and server error, and we need the profile itself. So here, if you console a profile, you're going to have the, check it out, check the console, and let's see. Yeah, you see we have the profile, expenses, and income. So now let's fill up this field, right? So if you check, you see that I've commented some field, right? So here is a user last name. So let's uncomment that. I'm just getting the profile first name and last name here, and here number of record, right? On your profile, we have expenses, we have length, right? We have length, and then we are going to add the total length of income as well. So that is it. To get total, it's going to be the total. Oh, let me have some space. Okay, this gives me some space. All right. Okay. Total records means that total length of expenses and total length of income as that. As we see it here, right? And the email, let's also uncomment this one. And then the date, I forgot to provide a date. So on click, you want to head over to what? To update profile, but you work on this. So next is, let's work on the graph. So remember on the graph, it accepts what? Total result of income and expenses, right? So here, if you check our console or Redux store, where is it? Let's check it here. And here for expenses, you see that we have a lot of them. Expenses that belongs to this user. And the same thing applies to income too. We have a lot of income. So how can we get the total amount of income that this user has created, right? So to get a total, we're going to use reduce, right? To get the total income, total expenses and total income, right? So let's get it done quickly. So here we know that this profile contains both the expenses and income. So here let's create a function const, let me call this one total income, right? Is equal to, on the profile we have dot income, right? Dot income. So let's see, is it dot income or dot incomes? Profile and income, right? And here we can use the reduce function, right? With the reduce function, and check it out. And this reduce function takes in the callback function. And this callback function, it takes two things. right? One going to be the accumulator, right? And then the next one going to be the current. So to show you what the accumulator and current means, let's console log both, right? So console log the accumulator here and then the current. So the first one is accumulator, right? So let's check it out and see. Console log, as you can see here, we have it. So the first one is what is the accumulator, right? And the next one, sorry, this takes a callback function, and the next one going to be the starting point. So start from 0, not the increment, right? Start from 0. So we have the accumulator. So this current means that on the first loop, the total number of items we have going to be this plus this, right? So this accumulator represent the individual object, individual income here. So here, if you make it dot amount, so here let's console log accumulator dot amount, and let's see what we have. I'm going to have, oh sorry, is it current? Oh, 0, sorry. I'm going to have 0. So this one, then let's console log no. So let me console log the accumulator in C, line number 16. Okay, it's undefined, and the current is the individual items rather. Sorry, the current. So if you console log current, yeah, this current represents the individual incomes, right? So check it out and see. You see that we have it, and we can now take the amount. So dot amount, and check it out. We're going to have the amount only. You see 32, 34, 22, and other stars. So here the accumulator means that on the first loop we are going to add this one plus this, and going to be the accumulator on the first run. So here we are going to return the current or accumulator plus current dot amount right, dot amount, and we're going to get the total. So here, because let's convert everything to a number, or we can put plus plus in front of it, and it's going to be a number, but then make it more readable. Okay, pass as a number here, then you wrap everything inside that to make sure that it's a number. Okay, so if you console log total income, so console.log, let's console log the total income here. Let's check it out what we have. Check the console, and we have 88. Right? So let's do the same thing for the expenses. So we can create a function and do this separately, but I think there's not all that much here. So total income, what am I doing? This one was total income. Okay, total expense. Okay, like this. Console log it here. So the difference here gonna be the expenses. Okay, and that is it. So let's console log total expense. Okay, so you have the two. Oh, more expenses, right? So now we can pass this total income and total expense to our graph. So let's import it here. Data graph. Scroll down here. As you can see, the graph goes here like this. And remember, it accepts this. So let's quickly import the graph. I think the auto import is not working, so let's do it manually. Let's import the graph, the chart, or the chart here. So import data graph from components data graph. Okay, so now we have this accept total income, and here let's replace our total income. And for expenses, it's also total expense. Check it out. Okay, the import is wrong. It's not from this. So the import for data graph is wrong. So let me check. So one more step, and components, and we have, is it graph data or data graph? I forgot the name. Was it graph data? Okay, so let me check it again. User profile, dashboard, component here. Was it data graph or graph data? It's graph data, right? So let's go again. Sorry guys. Is it graph data here? Okay, it's this one. So let's remove this one, and then let's replace it with the name. Okay, it's graph data. Okay, let's see what we have. Let's refresh. There we go. Now, did you see that we have our graph, our chart? You see, we have a lot of expenses going on here. That is it. So if you convert, you see that we have less income. This is the final one, right? Let's work on this account calculation here, right? This one, the expenses and then income. So if you may be doubting that, why don't we use the same logic for this one? Remember, this API is for the admin only, and this API is different from the user profile. So the response coming back from this API, the calculation has done for us already. So there's no need. The calculation was done in the back end. But in our case for users, all what you are getting back is just raw. Let me call it. Which one? Let me call ours. What you are getting back is just raw array. Okay, this is what we have. We have the raw array with this array of data here. So how we are going to take this array of data and manipulate it, get the minimum value, average value, total value. Okay, so let's get it done. So first of all, unless we create two functions for this, right? One function for expenses and one for income. But because they have the same structure, we can create a utility function. So when you pass in this expense, it's going to give us all this response. It's going to give us number of transactions, minimum transaction, maximum transaction, average transaction. Okay, so let's get it done. So let's go back to close this once. Let's go back to utils, right? Client side of it, clients, and then utils. So here we're going to add one more utility function called account statistics. This time around we are doing from the front end, right? So two ways. One we did from the back end, and this one from the front end. So here quickly let's create our function. So cons, I'll call this one calculate transaction. Okay, and it's equal to this function. We're going to take an array, okay, and then manipulate it and give us two things. So here what we want from this function is one, give us the total, the one we did, total, and then we also want to get the minimum transaction, maximum transactions, and the average. So this function should give us this response when you pass in the array. Okay, so cool. So let's get rocking. All right. So here, first of all, let's flat the array to get only the amount, right? We're going to filter or map through and then get a new version of the array. So here I'll call this one cons transaction array, and I'm going to call array.map. Okay, and this .map, I get back the data or the array itself, or let me call it data. Okay, And then for this data, I just want to grab data.amount. Remember, on that array, we have amount. Okay, cool. So now I got it. The next step is what? I'm going to get the sum. Okay, let me call sum total. So const sum total of the whether it's income or array, income or expense, right? So here I will take the array, right, and then I'm going to make use of map, remember, right? So you get the map. First of all, you want to get, or better still, we can use this transaction, right? And then we can add reduce to it. And better still, we can also take this one again. You can go back, let's say, get only the amount. So two ways like that. So let me show you. This is what we call chaining. Okay. So if you get this one back, we have the data or the income or whatever inside here, right? And then dot reduce. So you see that on the first stage, we flatten it to get all the arrays that contains the numbers only, and here I can now add my reduce. And remember, it takes accumulator and the current, right? So at this point, we can now return an object from this function. Return the total is what? The account. At this point, we have only the account and accumulator, and we can convert everything to number. Okay, and let's convert everything to number like that. Okay, so now I got my sum total. Okay, I'm going to make use of this one later on. So now I think this one is okay. They were chaining, so we get back the sum total of it. Okay, so we call this one sum. Next one is, let's get the average. And average is going to be pretty simple, right? So const average is equal to the total sum. Okay, sum total, all right, divided by 2 to get the average. And to get the minimum value, so const min is equal to, make use of math dot min, and then you spread all the arrays. Remember, we have a transaction array. There we go. And then const, we get the maximum is also equal to the same thing, max, and spread all. So what has left is, let's return all this response as an object, right? So here we have sum total, we have average, we have mean, and we have maximum. Okay, that is it. So let's export this function. So export default calculate transaction. Okay, so now we have the response coming back. Let's go to what you're working on. You're going to calculate this by passing in all the arrays of expenses. So if you doubt, let's console log everything from here, right? And see console.log, we have the average, we have the maximum, we have the sum total. Okay, so let's call this function inside our profile and pass in the array and see what we're gonna get. So let's go back to users and profile, and let's record this function. So calculate transaction as this function. Okay, and let's call this function where here. So this one now has become what? Redundant, because we have a function to do this for us. For now, let's leave it. Okay, so let me call this function and pass in the profile.income. Let's see. Okay, let's check the console. As we see, account statistics, there we go. Here, okay, transaction is not a treatable. Okay, at the time the component mount, we don't have the income, right? That is why it's saying that. So what we can do is that, first of all, we can make some checking here, and it says that if there is profile dot income, then we can call our function. There you go. Did you see that? Now we have where is it? This one is working. The first one, second one, the middle one is working. I think there's something wrong with our function call. Minimum and maximum is working, but the average and the transaction sum total is not working. So what is the problem here? So let's fix it out. Why is it so? Oh, sorry, it's not dot map, but it's the what amount. Sorry, that is bad on my side. So let's check it out. I think it's somewhere around here. You see that we have everything here. We have all the individual values here. Okay, cool. So now we can now return. So let's go to profile, right? So all what we did, where's my profile? Where am I calling the function? Okay, here. So all what we are doing was I was checking whether there is a profile or income, then we can call this one, right? So here, let's assign the value. Let me call this one result. So let's check this one. What variable did we use? Let's check. So here you are going to check for call the two functions, right? So let's go here. Let me say that get income statistics. Okay. So here, let's call this function here for income. Let's cut it. Then put this one const income result. Okay, and then let's make sure if there is profile, it's equal to. Sorry, it's equal to. If there is profile and there is income on that, then we can call our function call calculate transaction, and then you pass in profile dot income. So this one is for income, and then let's copy this one and then calculate for get expense. Okay, and this here gonna be expense result. If there is expenses on that, then we can go ahead and then pass in the expenses. Okay, cool. So like I said, this one now is what is now more working because we have the results here. So let's console log the two. Console.log both the income result and the expense result. Check it out in the console and let's see. There we go. You see that we have it. And these are the objects. You see that the result coming back. We have two objects, one for expense and one for income. Okay. All right. So now we can now get back all this average and then pass in as that. So here, remember we have the sum total for this. And so for the graph, where do we have it? Where's my graph? Scroll down here. Okay. Where is it? I'm locating the graph for the profile. The graph is missing. Okay, it's weird, right? So we have it. Oh, here. So here, the total income. Let's check it out. We use the sum total, right? So income result dot sum total. Okay, And then for the, let's copy this one, okay. And for the expenses, it's going to be expenses why this long name? Oh, expense result. Sorry guys. Okay. So we have the expense result dot sum total, and let's see that everything remains the same. Yes, there we go, everything remains the same. So now how can we display this record, right? And we need to create a component for that, so we can pass in all, and the component is called user profile statistics, right? So check it out, user profile statistics. If you go to templates, I have the template for you for that. So it's called user profile statistics, this one. Okay, so let's copy this one and come to users and place it here. All right, so we're going to pass in all the data here, okay, and then we can display them accordingly as that. Okay, so come back to profile and then let's uncomment this. I want to display all of them. All right, so let's require this component that we have imported. Okay, so as you can see, we are passing in the number of transactions of expenses, and that one can easily be done, right? So you can pause this video and type the props you are passing in. You have the average expense, and you can guess is on the average expense result. This is how we name it. Okay, let's name it accordingly so that it make our life easier. So for the variable for the expense, let's change it back to, so now this one is no more working, so let's remove that. So for the expense results, the variable here I used was this expense result. So the profile, and then for the income, we also use inc result, not income result. Okay, there we go. So the only difference here gonna be the data graph is called expense result, and then income result. Okay, so now we are passing all both the number of transactions, that one is okay, and then the number of transaction of expense and average expense, total expense, minimum expense, maximum expense, and all the stuff inside that. So if you save it, now let's check the final one, what we are doing. You see that we have the variable, but there's no value because we are not displaying it inside the user profile this here. So come back here, and now let's destructure that, all of them from here. It's going to be a lot of work, right? So this is what I often do, right? So I go to profile, and then I'll copy everything like that, and then come back to profile statistics. Make sure that you are in the right component, right? And in between here, I will paste it, and then just remove these ones and place comma here, remove here. I'm destructuring the props I pass in this component, and then remove that, and 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 remove that. Okay, cool, destructured. So now let's display them. So expenses start here. So we have H1. We have what is called formatted amount. So we're going to format this one. Don't worry, the amount. So number of transactions, or uncomment that. Then minimum transactions, uncomment that. We have expenses, uncomment that. We have for the uncomment all the values. For the income tool, we are going to use the formatted amount, right, to format the amount. Don't worry. So, and then uncomment that, and uncomment this, and uncomment this. Okay, save it. Moment of truth. There we go. We have the values here, right? We have the values here. Left with the amount. With the amount, let's try to format it using our currency formatter function. So let's come back to utils. Where is my utils function? Here. Currency formatter. Remember it, symbol and amount. So let's go to no, not here. Let's go to user profile statistics here, total expense. So let's bring in, currency formatter. Okay, as a function, and then where we have the here, right? Okay, uncomment it. So here, first of all, let's call the function, then pass in total expense. Total expense, yes. And then for the total for income, let's locate income here. This one, line number 73. I'm gonna be currency formatter and then total inc. Check it out and see what we have. Oh, sorry. Pass in the currency code, right? So 2 arguments. So USD, and then this one also pass in comma and then pass in USD. There we go. We have it, right? So if I log in with different user, I'm gonna see different data. So let's check out and log in with this user. Remember, I don't have any income for this user. So let me log in here and log in. Oh, we got this error. It's because when the user is created, there's no data for income. But I think the error is saying that reduce of empty array with no initial value. Oh, I got it. So let's go back to our code, our function here. And for the reduce, it takes second argument as our initial value. I believe you guys saw it. Just add starting point initial of 0. And there we go.